Okay, so this part of the video is about using the gradient method or the slope method to calculate the speed or the velocity of the object. Okay, so what is a gradient? The gradient is a mathematical thing. Okay, it's something you'll use in maths. It's also known as the slope of a line, which is basically a measure of how steep it is. It's a measure of its steepness. And we've got a formula for it. The gradient is equal to the rise divided by the run. Okay, I'll explain what that means in a second. Okay, so first of all, just with the gradient itself, if I have a line that's maybe flat like this, and on a distance time graph, a flat line, if you remember, means that the object was stationary. Okay, in other words, it hasn't moved position. Well, if it's flat like this, then it would have a gradient of 0. Okay, gradient or the slope would be 0. And that would, of course, correspond to a 0 velocity. In other words, it would not be moving, it wouldn't have a speed. As I increase the steepness of the line, the number that you get from the rise divided by the run gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until eventually it comes all the way up when it's standing up straight or perpendicular, and the gradient is so big that you can't actually calculate it. Okay? So, just a couple of points that we need to know from it. It's the gradient of a distance time graph that gives us the speed or the velocity. Okay, a 0 gradient means that the object is stationary. Okay, so now how do we calculate it? So, like we said, it's the rise divided by the run. So what we do is we measure how much it has come up and how much it has gone out. Okay, so if we take this line here, for example, okay, you can see that it started at 0 and it's come up to a height of 3, and it's gone out to a position of 4 on the other axis. So then what we would say is it has risen, rise, from the start to the finish. It has risen by 3. Okay, so the rise would be here, and that would be 3. In that time, we have run along this way, and we have run along on whatever axis this is by 4. So the run would be 4. So that means if you just now take your numbers and we get the rise divided by the run, then I would have 3 would be my rise, my run is 4, and my gradient would be 3 over 4, or 0.75. Okay. Now right now there's no units on this, so this number doesn't necessarily mean anything. But we're going to put units on it in a moment, because we're going to use this in a distance time graph, and that number will have